Welcome back to another summary of the Tensura light novel. Today we are going to cover volume 8, and as always remember that I will be using the manga panels to better showcase what happened to you guys since we have them available currently. Also remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and the fact that this is a summary, so some of the light novel information has been omitted, but it doesn't change the story. Let's pick up where we left off last time. Luminous Valentine confronts Veldora about destroying her city in the past, and even though Veldora is owning up to his mistake, Luminous is not letting that slide. Rimuru throws Veldora under the bus, then the knights realize that Luminous Valentine wasn't a demon lord, but she was actually the god Luminous herself. Rimuru starts discussing with Raphael what had happened during his fight with Hinata. He asked if it had been possible to block Hinata's melt slash attack if the ultimate skill Absolute Defense Uriel had been used. In Raphael's response by saying even when using an ultimate defense in a situation, spiritual particles might still be able to penetrate. Rimuru wonders what spiritual particles are, which Raphael states that it's a special kind of particle that magicules are made of because of the random element of nature. It can pass through anything, including the barriers, but how is it possible that it blocked Trinity disintegration from the 7 luminaries? While the problem was that predation was initiated on Melt Slash back when Hinata used it, and in doing so Raphael was successfully able to analyze the random elements it involved, so it enabled them to anticipate and defend against holy attacks. They continue talking for a bit, and we see how upset Luminous is with Veldora as she keeps trying to hurt him. Rimuru continues asking questions to Raphael, and we see Raphael dodge it and answer something else, which then we get a sense that maybe Raphael might have an ego. As he goes back to looking at Hinata and thinks that he would like to someday be able to block or withstand that melt slash attack, then Rimuru thinks to himself that Raphael is way too good and it was wasted on someone like himself, in which Raphael responds by saying that it solely exists for the sake of his master, which Rimuru then smiles. Hinata then tells a story of how she was defeated by Luminous Valentine and decided to serve her, explaining that the reason why the country Lubelius is peaceful and conflict-free is because they are under the blessing of Demon Lord. Meanwhile, there's a little bit of discussion, and Hinata says she will not tolerate anything bad said regarding Luminous Valentine. Rimuru asks her to calm down, but the knights assure him that everything will be fine since they trust him, as she said is their savior. Besides, if they were to confront Luminous, they would need to be as strong as the guy she was fighting, and they didn't think they could be. Rimuru then is told by Raphael that Veldora's aura could have leaked and turned everything around them into a ruin, but Veldora was managing his energy in a stable threshold thanks to also Luminous sucking his magicules. Hinata asks who is that, and Rimuru introduces him as the form of Veldora in human form. Rimuru suggests they return to his town and throw a party to celebrate their friendship, which Valentine is more than happy to join. We switch over to look at Damrata and Granbel Rosso discussing their failure and the fact that someone like Diablo showed up, blaming each other for who didn't deal with what part of the plan, but at the end everything is going according to Rimuru's plan, which is the development of the Jura Tempest Federation to become a financial center of the world, which would massively weaken the influence and power of the organization Servus. Granbel Rosso states he wants to continue working together, but Damrata stops him and says he can't make that decision because Servus has no reason to go against Rimuru since they can use him as a business partner. Rosso then asks him to just not interfere, and Damrata leaves by stating he will refrain from anything in the west since they already know who he is, so he will send someone else in his stead, at which Granbel Rosso stated he will crush Servus next. And we switch over to Damrata reporting to someone regarding everything that happened, that someone being Yuki Kagurasaka, the true master of the underground organization Servus. Damrata is still shook. He noticed a primordial demon is under Rimuru, and Yuki states it's not a big deal. They start discussing who would take over Damrata, and Vega the Power comes to mind, described as the literal embodiment of violence, not an option. So they switch over to another one called Misha the Lover. Yuki then suggests shutting down the slave market because the Jura forest is under Rimuru, so they can't go hunting for monsters anymore, and discuss releasing the monsters they currently have, but Damrata lets Yuki handle the business. Kazalim walks in, and Yuki realizes she had been listening and says taking down the slave market is drastic, with him stating he has never liked slavery, and on top of that he would let that hero have all of the credit. Kazalim requests to be called Kagali and stated after claiming it's time for her to step up and get her revenge on Leon Cromwell. We go back to Rimuru's town, and the people of Lubelius are welcomed in a way that they never thought possible. The people of Tempest felt uneasy because they remember the pain they suffered by some of the same people when they were welcoming clothing them now while the invasion from Falmouth was taking place. Hinata is welcomed by a piece of clothing from Japan, and Rimuru explains they mass-produced that clothing. Rimuru suggests Hinata take a bath and change since she has a hole in her clothes, which leads him to think he was looking at her inappropriately and decided to apologize, then guide them to a bath only for women, but Hinata is doubting why Rimuru is the one leading them there. Rimuru wants to use this opportunity to bond with them, but Hinata doesn't like the fact that Rimuru was a man in his previous life. Even though he is trying to justify doing it since now he has no gender, Shion makes everything worse by telling everyone Rimuru regularly takes baths with women. So then Shion was assigned to take the women to their bath. Rimuru decides to go to the men's bath instead with Veldora, Benimaru, and others, but Benimaru seems distraught. Turns out Shuna wanted to take a bath with Rimuru and is now upset with Benimaru, which ended in Rimuru bathing alone, and we go back to the view on the women's bath, and Hinata notices Rimuru recreated the bathhouses from his world. She questions just how much work was put into creating that, but Luminous states that she likes them. Turns out the reason she likes them is because she gets to look at Hinata's naked body, so she promises to build a bath back at her home in her territory so she can keep doing it. If we switch over to Rimuru, then we see that his banquet hall has been set up for a meeting. Luminous uses that opportunity to open up Hinata's robe and leave it loosened. Then right as the meeting is about to start, Hinata uses that opportunity to apologize to Rimuru for everything she has done. Rimuru pays no attention to her apology and just stares down her robe and gets caught by Shuna. He asks that she stop her prejudice, but that would be hard for her because monsters are a threat to mankind. Hinata does say that she will try to change things by no longer condemning monsters just because they are monsters, and asks Luminous if she is okay with it, but Luminous does not care in the slightest as long as her people still worship her. So they all cheer and the banquet begins. They try beer for the first time. Hinata eats shrimp tempura after a while, but while Rimuru thought she would be pleased, she starts nagging him, asking how he got that food. Shion also receives an apology, but now Shion is the one holding a grudge against humans. So Rimuru uses that opportunity to teach her humans learn from their mistakes, and she understands. Then they all apologize to the monsters once again, but Rigurd's words put everyone at ease, asking for a better relationship. And Benimaru does point out he doesn't think he can beat Hinata in a fight. Luminous talks to Rimuru and he admires just how noble she looks. He warns her not to overdo the alcohol, but she claims to be impervious to poison, so she's tried lessening the poison nullification effect in order to get drunk. Rimuru is surprised something like that is possible, and Veldora claims to have mastered it eons ago. So they all claim to lessen their resistance in order to get drunk together. Then we are shown the monsters and the humans sharing moments of happiness, enjoying each other's company, only for the night to end and Rimuru to wake up with a hangover. We switch over to the bathhouse while Rimuru is speaking to the demon lord Louis Valentine, the twin brother of Roy Valentine, with Roy being the one who possesses as a demon lord and Louis being the one who presents himself as the god Luminous. He tells Rimuru how his brother died to a guy with a clown mask, and Rimuru suspects it's the same person that instigated the orcs. He also remembers it could be the Harlequin Alliance. The bath ends and there is yet another meeting. However, this is an official meeting to establish public relations. They hand out documents stating everything that both sides suffered, and Rimuru asks one question to Hinata. Regarding the first time Hinata attacked him, he suspects it was Yuki, but she answers that it was a merchant from the Eastern Empire. Then Rigurd interrupts. Turns out that Clayman's castle, they had found a lot of purchases like weapons and armor made from the Eastern Empire, which also explains why all of the orcs were so heavily armed. Hinata explains the merchant she spoke about called himself Dam, but that was likely an alias. She mentions this man told her Rimuru had killed Shizu, and that pissed him off so much his aura started leaking, so much it even caught Veldora's eye, but he was brought back to his calm state by Luminous Valentine. Then Rimuru realizes that the Falmouth invasion was also fabricated by someone controlling Clayman, but they don't know who. Rimuru suspects it was possible that it was the Seven Luminaries, but Luminous is offended. They think her underlings did that right under her nose without her noticing. Louis Valentine, however, seems to agree with Rimuru, saying they were starved for her affection, meaning her love energy, some sort of kiss, saying she performed that ritual last over 100 years ago. She used to do it once a week, but then it became longer and longer. However, she never realized it since she is immortal, saying found that the luminaries were originally human. Only reason they lasted that long was her love energy. They think the original plan was for the luminaries to cause Hinata to die so Luminous wouldn't play favorites with her anymore. Now comes the time to realize what happened to them. They were 7. Diablo eliminated only 3, while Luminous also eliminated 3, but the last one was killed by Nikolaos. The Luminous reveals the 7th luminary's name. It was Granville, a previous hero of light. Rimuru is glad everyone can share information now because originally he would have suspected Yuki, but Hinata says the possibility is still there because the Harlequin Alliance is still around and so is the secret merchant. Then Shuna comes in to bring some snacks and Rimuru is asked if he accepts their apology. He agrees, but Luminous isn't happy. She doesn't want to owe anyone anything, and since her side is to blame, she offers to pay for reparations, but Rimuru asks to be formally recognized and enter diplomatic relations instead, to which Luminous accepts. Veldora isn't the happiest, but Rimuru buys him off with food, and 100-year truce gets implemented. But some of the knights are worried about how the religious beliefs in their country might be affected because monsters were never supposed to be accepted. But Luminous clarifies this isn't something that came from her when she established the religion. It was from leaders at the time, and we get a bit of a backstory of the religion. Turns out the entire religion was created in order to feed the vampires with the greatest flavored food, or blood of blissful humans. So the religion was created to give humans a sense of peace and happiness, which would make them taste better to vampires. So they worry on how the population will take randomly being friends with monsters, especially after the press and the media saw what Diablo did to the luminaries. So Rimuru proposes saying he and Hinata tied in their battle and blame the 7 luminaries, or just say that he lost altogether. But a human beating a demon lord is something very rare that has very rarely happened in history. So saying Rimuru tied or lost would make everyone believe he is very weak and they would end up the conversations for the day. That is all for part 1 of the summary of light novel volume 8 of Tensura. Make sure to like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't yet, and make sure to not miss the next part.